Welcome to the Sustainability Commission meeting of August 3rd. Oh, I go roll call? Okay, roll call, please.
Roll call.
Oh.
To read the opening information.
I'm sorry, yes, okay. All right, sorry for that. Meetings are broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 6, and ATT Uverse, Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing at any time at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Call 818-548-4013 for program schedules. For public comments and questions during the meeting, call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that agenda item is discussed. If you have any question about matters on the agenda or requests for assistance, please contact the Management Services Department at 818-548-4844 during regular business hours. And please turn off cellular phones while inside the meeting location.
Roll call.
Yeah.
We have Commissioner Bartrosov,
Here.
Commissioner Cartoonian,
Here.
Commissioner Werner,
Here.
Vice Chair Bazemore,
Here.
Chair Pinkerton,
Here.
Ex officio Espengian,
Here.
Ex officio Welch.
Here.
Next item is 1A, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Next item is 1B, Land Acknowledgement.
Okay. We would like to acknowledge that we're holding this meeting in the city of Glendale on the traditional lands of the Gabrielino Tongva people. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, and the Tongva communities who continue to be stewards of this land. We encourage our audience to learn more about the Tongva tribe and the many indigenous communities in California and beyond. You can find a list of books and resources at eglendalelac.org/Native American 2022. Thank you.
Item 1C, report regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the August 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Sustainability Commission was posted July 28, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. 2A is approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held July 6, 2023.
Does anyone have any corrections or comments on the minutes? Okay. Move to approve. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So I guess we're approved. Thanks. Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Bartrosov,
Yes.
Commissioner Cartoonian,
Yes.
Commissioner Werner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bazemore,
Yes.
Chair Pinkerton.
Yes.
Next item is 3, board member staff comments. 3A, introduction of student ex officio commissioners.
Okay, so we have 2 new commissioners joining us for the first time. Welcome. It's Sean Espengian, did I say that correctly? And then Jeremy Welch. And so thank you. We hope you were briefed on what this little venture is all about, and we look forward to working with you. If you want to take a couple minutes and maybe give us some background on what school you're from, top, areas of interest, that type of thing. Sean, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, my name is Jean Espanjon. I'm a rising senior and I attend Rose and Alex Vilibos Armenian School. I'm honored to be a part of the commission and hope to advance sustainability in Glendale and learn more about the environment.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Yeah, I am Jeremy Welch. I am a student at Glendale Community College, majoring in geography and hoping to go into environmental science. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Some commissioners asked to share some items during staff comments.
So I'll go ahead first. So Cole and I have been a part of Walk by Glendale for quite some time now. Just wanted to go over some highlights. We're part of we're doing a summertime series of events. Elizabeth, do you mind sharing that one first, the other attachment? So we did our first event on July 22nd. That was a community ride with Mayor Dan Brotman. Cole, do you want to, or am I covering the highlights? So the event went really well. We were able to service some bikes for members in the community that needed to get their bikes repaired. We gave away helmets and lights as well. There were about 100 people altogether that came to the event. 50 or so participated in the actual bike ride, and then another 50 were given lights and helmets that opted to not go on the ride itself. And then about 25 people got their bicycles repaired. So that was the first event on July 22nd. We have our next event coming up on the 6th, and Cole can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll just mention briefly the July 22nd event actually had a ride that was really successful as well. We did about 7 miles throughout central South Glendale, and really appreciated the turnout that came out for that. We also were supported by 2 of our very own Glendale PD on their new e-bikes, which was really exciting. So glad to have them there. Yeah, so for August 6th, this Sunday, we are going to be having a bike skills course for kids. This is going to be at Palmer Park from 9 to noon.
Elizabeth, can you share that flyer? Sorry.
Thanks. There we go. Yep, so this is coming up on Sunday, like I said, Palmer Park, basketball courts from 9 to noon. Come on down. We welcome everyone. We're going to be giving away helmets and lights again. But the big goal of this is just to get kids on bikes, learn the skills, learn safety, and we'll be doing another bike repair as well. So if you have a bike that needs to be repaired and you're eager to get back on it, bring it along, and we'll be doing a repair for that. So take a look at our Walk by Glendale socials to learn more. Thanks.
And then one more time, if you can just go back to the next, the other flyer. We do have another event coming up on August 19th. For those that are not bike oriented, this will be a walking tour of some streets in downtown Glendale to talk about street design, how that informs our ability to walk, bike, take transit, and also drive, and the safety aspects of those various street elements. So you're welcome to RSVP for any of these events, including that one and the ones coming up after that, using the QR code there. And we hope you'll participate. Thanks.
Rondi, did you have something? Oh.
Well, staff have comments. We want to let you know we are planning a clothing swap on August 12th. There are flyers in the back if you want to grab one on your way out. So this is where, the community brings up to 10 clean and gently used clothing items to swap. So we'll collect it, sort it, and then display it on Saturday, August 12th at the Glendale Central Library, where the community can come and take any of the items that are, donated and be able to, refresh their closet, while also, without also having to buy new clothes. And we are going to give first access to anyone who donated items to get out, to come to the event and be able to pick whatever clothing items they want first. And then at 12, we'll open it to the general public. So anyone, even if you haven't donated items, can come and collect clothing items. And we'll have some snacks. And also there's a free bookshop where people can pick up free books.
So I have a question on that. So you bring in the things you want to donate the day of the...
You can bring
swap?
it the day of the event, but we're asking people to bring it in the Friday before so we have time to sort. And
Sort,
display.
okay. That's a great idea. And then free books, these are just discontinued library books, or...
Yeah, so the library is will be going renovation, so they have a lot of books in their collection that they're looking to give to the public if they
Okay.
wish.
And then will you donate any leftover clothing that doesn't get taken?
Yes, so we're working with some local groups to donate the extra clothing, or some, if there's not too many items, we may keep it for another clothing swap if successful.
This is great, putting reuse into practice.
Next item. For oral communications, discussion is limited to items within the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Sustainability Commission members may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff for investigation and report. And at this moment, we don't have any callers. So next item is 5 action items. There are no action items. Next item is 6, reports information. City of Glendale Sustainability Commission product workflow is 6A.
Good evening, Chairperson Pinkerton and Sustainability Commission. So, bringing this item today because we were discussing the agenda with Chairperson Pinkerton prior to this meeting, and Chairperson Pinkerton brought up some issues which other commissioners have brought up in the past, namely, sending information out to different departments in the city, getting that information back and transmitting that information to the Commission in a timely basis. But also in terms of when the Commission does receive information, is it received in time that the Commission can actually debate, deliberate on reports, give their thoughts, give their recommendations, then that information is either transmitted back to the staff of that department or eventually maybe to City Council. So because it's been discussed a number of times, and I know I assume there's a little bit of frustration sometimes on behalf of the commissioners about not getting this information in time and not being able to respond effectively. So we thought we'd just go over the product workflow process today. And the objective of today is to really get your input into this and give us some directions and thoughts of how we may work this, whether you think this is appropriate, this structure that we have works or doesn't work. So it's to basically have a discussion around that. And then when we receive your input, we'll come back with a further report to the Commission with your input. So yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of this is to effectively support the Commission, deliver its annual work plan and other efforts, and respond timely and effectively to Commission requests. And as I was thinking about this, this report and putting this together the other day, it's like, we're in an enviable position that sustainability is a very wide subject, and it can touch on many, many different assets, programs that's happening in the city, but there's also a double-edged sword, right? So where does the Commission get involved? Where does it not get involved? And what are the barriers and what's the line to make that happen? And for example, I've got 2 agendas here, one from Glendale Water and Power, and to their commission, and it's easy for them. It's like customer service update, report back on local water supply, a budget presentation, and summer readiness. We know that's in the purview of that commission, so it's easy for them to develop those agendas and give that information to staff. And the same with the Transportation Commission, which I believe Commissioner Bartleswift has been on before, recommend that the City Council adopt and propose revision to the Neighbourhood Traffic Calming Programme. Again, that's a report that they've been presented to City Council. City Council asked that commission to look into it. So they have much more of a pathway that they can go down, and we maybe don't have that exact pathway, and there's good reason for that too. So how do we make sure that when the commissioners do ask us, staff, to provide you information, provide reports, how do we go about that? How do we get you the information? How do we respond to other departments who may say, well, that's not the purview of the commission and stuff like that, and how do we have that discussion internally? So hopefully that's what we're going to try and discuss a little bit today. So again, especially for the new commissioners, when we established the commission, we tried to identify some of the advisory roles that the commission would be involved with and making recommendations primarily to City Council. Obviously, the Climate Action Adaptation Plan and a future, hopefully, sustainability plan, the commission will be instrumental in providing guidance to City Council regarding that. Looking at decarbonisation strategies, so through transport or built environment, which are the recommendations, like the commission did with the building electrification project. We got your feedback on that. Looking at nature-based development strategies and the work plan, we're looking at sort of water conservation. How do we go about addressing water conservation, promoting that within our city? Advising on circular development initiatives, prioritizing waste management, green procurement. The commission gave us great feedback on environmental preferable purchasing policy. And then development plans in and around the city to improve livability, promote health. Again, the commission hopefully can provide feedback on bicycle transportation plan and green space and heat island effects. I think that's something in your work plan that you want us to address. So again, this is a really wide scope of area for the commission to work on, and I don't envy the commission. It's like diving down, it's like where do we work and where do we prioritize? And that's why we worked with you last year to develop the work plan to begin to help us do that process. So how does information come into the commission? Where do we get information and how do you act on the information? And then we'll talk about the products that come out of the commission. So the first one's through the public, like events like this event. If we had representatives from the community here, at Neural Communications, they may bring up issues that the commission may want to address and may want to put on a further agenda. And if the commissioners are at events outside the chambers, if they hear from their constituents or members, that may be another thing that they want to bring up in the dais. So there's that public comment. Primarily, the commission at this point gets direction from City Council. If City Council has some questions or wants a commission recommendation on a specific item, they'll ask staff to bring that to the commission. We'll create a report and bring that report to you. And that will be an action item, so you deliberate, you debate, and then you'll make vote, make those recommendations, and then we'll transmit that information back to City Council. Commission members yourselves on the dais, as you have discussion, issues can be raised, and you can ask that to be agendized at future meetings. If and when we have subcommittees, those subcommittees may provide or want the commission to act on certain points of information. Other city commissions, as you know, the commission worked with Glendale Water and Power Commission on the Shoal Canyon and Grayson, so other commissions may see that this commission would have value input into their work. A good example, maybe in the future, what's going to happen with drive-through plans. And then finally, city staff may bring up ideas that should be addressed to the commission. So this is where information comes into the commission, and then the question is now is how does the commission act on this information, and how do we get this information back out to you, and how do we effectively work for your ideas, your recommendations, your suggestions? How do you make sure that those get involved in the city processes? So the first one's obviously recommendations and actions for council to consider. So council may come to the commission and say, we want you to look at the bees ordinance. They can debate that, and they'll make a recommendation to council, like we should include this in the bee ordinance, et cetera, this is how it should look. And then we feed that information back to council, and then council will take those recommendations and they'll act on that report and make their final decisions. Another one is, and this is one where I think we don't always effectively transmit information back to the commission, but the commissioners request information from staff from different departments. It's our responsibility to go out to those different departments, get that information, and then transmit that information back to the commission in the forms of a report, whether it's for actions or whether it's just an information report. Something that we haven't done, a product from the Commission may identify a program or project or something that is important to City Council, but City Council are not acting on it right now. It's information that City Council may require in the future. So we can submit a report to Note and File to the City Council, so they take that information on board, and then they'll do what they want. As again, that's not something that we have done in this Commission yet. And then another product from the commissions may make recommendations on actions for council to take, and those actions don't require debate or discussion by council, so it just fits onto the consent item. Again, that is something that we have not done in the commission. So in terms of work back out, these are like the 4 avenues of the work you do and how it gets back out into City Council and for them to act on.
David, could I, so one question, like the example, I think one of the first things we considered was the beekeeping, but that came to us per direction of council, right? But if we have ideas, so really these are our options, like the note and file or recommendations for consent calendar. So I'm just curious the process, would you introduce who agendizes or puts an agenda together for city council meetings, and how would like one of our recommendations get on the consent calendar?
So that's a very good question. So the agenda development process is done between the city manager and the mayor and they'll work together. City council will request items to be agendized. So if this commission does have something that it wants to bring to the attention of the council through the note and file process, for example, we'd prepare that report and we'd discuss that with the city manager at the agenda debriefings and say this is something that the commission wants, and then they would make that decision whether it goes onto the agenda for city council.
Sorry to belabor this, would that be like a 2-step process then? Like say if we make oral recommendations, would you take it back and do like a 1-pager and bring it back to us? Or would it be easier if you just then took that as you wrote it up to the mayor and the city manager?
So I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit, it would depend on the nature of the request. So how much research does it take? What are you asking us to do? Do we need to provide a full report to City Council on your request? And then we'd send that to City Council through the note and file process, I would imagine.
I had a question on the consent items. Have we done that one in the past and okay, so are there examples of something that might be considered a consent item, like what day to have Earth Day or something like that? Is that what you were thinking of?
That would be, I think, a good example. Maybe something through the Climate Action Adaptation Plan when it's done. It's like been approved and everything, and the committee's just supporting an action on that. That'd be through the consent item process. But again, that is something that we haven't done. So when we come across that, we would have to go through that process and understand how that would work effectively.
So a commissioner here might make a motion to add something as a consent item to the city council, or that motion could be to recommend an action, but we should be specific so that we know what's going to happen to it when it gets.
So it would be a discussion from the commissioners that was brought up onto the dais. You'd have that discussion. The commissioners vote like this is something that we want brought to city council, and then we'd have to go through the agenda development process with the city manager, and where does that fit on to the agenda? So if that fits on as a consent item, we put them through that, and then it would be go through that consent item process. So those consent items are generally voted on by council, or council can pull an item out from that consent calendar, and they may want to refer it back to the commission, or they may want to debate that further.
Okay, so they're the ones that would decide whether it was an action item or a consent item. Okay.
But just to clarify on that, any member of the public can also pull an item off of the consent calendar. So long as somebody wants to open that can of worms and spark a conversation or a presentation on a consent agenda item, they can. So I think for our discussion purposes, we won't necessarily know whether it's going to be consent or not. And I don't know that it necessarily matters, just for today's discussion.
Other actions, the commission may recommend programs, and just an example, the commission may recommend that we explore an app that's helped people reduce commute times, So what would that take? So staff and the commissioners would go away and do the research into that, see what exists out there, and start to develop a report, to bring that report back to the commission. We'd come back to the commission with, this is what we think that you want us to discuss and talk about. You provide input into us, say, no, we want you to go down this route, this route, this route. So you provide some parameters for us, and then we'll refine that report and that program approach. We'd have to identify if there what staff resources may be needed, what budget resources may be needed. And then if that gets approved by the commission, this is something that we want to do going forward. This is a program that we will support. We'll then place that program on the commission work plan. That commission work plan would then go through its usual process of having to go to City Council for their approval. If and when we may need formal budget requests, that'll be part of that process. And then if the program is something that is funded, is supported, we begin to go ahead and develop and implement that program. And then we report back. If there wasn't funding for the program or there is no support, we'd also report that back to the commission, that this program would be on hold, whatever the situation may be. So that's it. So that's the workflow process as we think it exists and we think it should exist. But again, we're here today to get your feedback, your comments on how you think this should work. So you can have your input into the city so we can move forward with our sustainability agenda, but do that in a way that is fair, equitable, and in terms of providing staff the time for them to bring that information to you, but also for us to be accountable, making sure that we bring that information back to you in a timely basis. And then after the discussion, we will show you the current tracker and where we are on some of the information requests that you have asked us. So yeah, so over to, I'd love to get your thoughts.
I just have one question, sorry, to close the loop. So for example, if we submit something that we want to, a recommendation to City Council, and you take it and it does end up on the council agenda, I'm assuming, well, I mean, who knows? It could get on the very next week's agenda, or it could be 2 weeks or 2 months down the road. Just to close the loop to make sure that we know it's on the agenda, do you have a plan in place for, an idea for alerting us to the fact that it got on the City Council agenda?
So there's an administrative process internally where we look maybe 2-3 months forward, or 6 to 8 weeks forward, about what's going to go on City Council agenda. And the reason for that is, so for next week's agenda, for example, staff would have had to submitted all their reports 3 weeks back from that date. And then weeks back from that, staff will be preparing the report so we have a good idea of when an item is coming to City Council. And when an item is coming there, with the leaf blower, or an item that is of concern to the commission, at these meetings, we will try and say to you, the meeting of X date, this item is going to be on that meeting, just so you are aware of what is coming in front of council.
By the way, that would be very helpful to know that an item that's going to be discussed by the City Council is something that we discussed here or we voted on here. Because some of us don't have the habit of attending or listening into every City Council meeting. The other thing, David, I think it would be helpful if either in advance, when we get the agenda, we get the tracker, or at a minimum during this meeting, we make it a habit of just spending 5 minutes on the tracker to see, hey folks, this is what I'm tracking. because, some of us forget that we've asked you something weeks later. Or, something else might come up, or we'll repeat the same request 2 weeks or 2 months down the line. We just want to know where it is, for our knowledge. Would that be possible?
Yeah, no, I think under Sustainability Office updates, we could make that just that we put that on there for every meeting, so we know. So, yeah, no problem.
I think to build on that, I would add that having, to your first point about how the Sustainability Commission itself is very, it has a lot of purview over a lot of different, agency or departments. It's very broad, I should say. So I think having kind of within that tracker, this kind of goes along with the work plan, is knowing when we're going to bring up specific items from different departments. I guess what I'm trying to get to is, like, if we can maybe consider having like a GWP report, 1 month, and then the next month would be like Public Works or something, so that we can try and focus our attention on one particular sort of department within the city, and then that might make it easy, for instance, to go to them and say, coming up in December this year for the Sustainability Commission, we want X, Y, and Z from your department. That's just one thought. I don't know if it would really be implementable, or at least work well for kind of the variety of things that we're always discussing. And there's of course this, city council things that will come up that might be more priority. But I'm just thinking through like how we could structure it so that we can, be a little more focused on like one topic or one, department. Anyways.
I do have one other, comment. I think at our last meeting, if I'm correct, I mentioned about water and maybe the city undertaking an outreach campaign that, 40 to 60% of households' water goes for outdoor irrigation, that lawns, what are your options to grass lawns and things like that. Can I turn that into a recommendation so it can be discussed by council?
So I think it's something that we would want you'd ask your colleagues to agendize that.
Okay.
A
Agendize
future
it first.
agenda.
Okay.
So then we would know we connect with you and say, what exact information are you looking for? We'll then go away and prepare a report and bring that report back to the commission.
Okay.
We may ask GWP to present or not present. We'd also have to understand what GWP is doing in that. So maybe they're working on that and they'll be sending something to council.
Okay.
And so we provide that information to you. And then if the commission says, well, this is something that we want, that should be addressed, we'll be addressed at us GWP commission. But yeah, so it'd have to go through that agendized process for all you to have your input into it.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense. So if you could make a note, I would like to agendize that for next time, unless anybody has objections.
Can you reiterate what you were requesting? And is that something we can do at this phase of the meeting, or does that have to happen during the council, or excuse me, the commission member comments?
I think you'd bring it up during board and staff member comments at that point and say, I would like to discuss weather apps at our next meeting. Then your council members say, okay, we agree that is something that we should be put on the agenda. And then we get into the minutes, and then it'd get into the agenda, and then we'd work with the chair, say it will be on September, October, November, whatever the agenda date is, and then we'll get it onto the agenda.
Thank you.
So yeah, I have a lot of ideas about this. I feel like part of the challenge that we've been having as commissioners has been this trying to figure out like what our purpose is as a commission. And I think the issue has been that the sense that I've gotten during my time here is that we are kind of on standby until we are proactively sought after, our opinion is proactively sought after by council on a particular item. And so, the beekeeping ordinance came about that way. We were a newly formed commission. Somebody on the council, I don't know who it was like, oh, why don't we ask the Sustainability Commission what they think? And I feel like we have taken a very passive approach in that we're just, for all intents and purposes, just kind of sitting here waiting to hear when they want our input. And I would like to flip that around and say that whenever there's an item that is going to the council that is sustainability related, and that definition will have to be figured out as we go along, because as Cole said, it's a broad approach, that whenever that happens, it just automatically comes to the commission, so that we're not having to develop a tracker to help determine when something's going to council. And frankly, if something is going to council 3 weeks from the time that we're hearing about it, it's already too late, because then we are not able to have a discussion. We are not able to put forward a formal recommendation. So if the other commissions are acting in that way, where by default, rather than passively being asked what our opinion is on a topic that is important to council, that we automatically express our opinion and our view if an item is sustainability related. And I know that's a management discussion. Staff will have to discuss that amongst council to determine if that's the right approach, but that's what I think the right approach is. And frankly, that gets us out of this gray area where we're kind of flustered and we have all these ideas and we ask you to do a million things that you don't have the time to do. Rather, we are working through a process that is already in place, and it's just a matter of staff coming to us before going to council. And that way, our view and our recommendations are formalized in the staff report that ultimately goes to council. So that's what I would like to see happen, because it seems like it's the most predictable way to do things. And then on the other side, like I have a lot of ideas, as we all do, and I don't want to overwhelm staff with one-offs here and there that then trigger you to have to come up with a staff report that then comes to us, and you're activating all the other departments. I've been kind of keeping my mouth shut because I'm waiting for the climate action plan to come through for us to then process what it is that we're asking of each of the respective departments. So that's been my personal approach. There are very specific things like the drive-through ordinance that, as you've all learned, I'm very passionate about. But other than that, I'm just kind of like being very patient and waiting for the climate action plan for me to then respond to. In my opinion, that's the way that we can enact the most impactful change. So those are my thoughts on like how I feel like we should function in city government as a commission, and how I feel we can have the most impact.
If I may ask my colleague a question. What happens if council needs to respond to something more urgently? I mean, my background is federal government and state government, and the speakers in both chambers can slow down things by referring them to 3 different committees and requiring studies, or they can speed up things by circumventing the committees and going straight to the legislative body. If they need to respond to something quicker, is it a hard rule that do they have to go through at least one commission? If it is something that touches multiple commissions, do they have to go through multiple commissions to take it to the city council? I mean, I don't have the answer to this, and I'm thinking out loud that what is there's times that council has to respond, has to deliberate on something a little bit more urgently, like next meeting, instead of saying, let's go through first committee, second committee, and then, the agenda's full the next month. I mean, what is the balance? Is there a ruling in the city where it has to go through at least one commission, or there's no such thing? It can go straight to council? I personally believe in the latter, that there's times that it may need to go straight to council.
Our council is raising her hand.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to respond, at least in part, to that question. First of all, under the Brown Act, the City Council can schedule a special meeting and or an emergency meeting within less than 24 hours notice. So there is the ability under statute to respond rapidly depending on the severity or the importance or the urgency of a situation. And I apologize that I'm not there. I've been under the weather this week. So that there is no, well, depending on the nature of, to address the other part of your question, is it required to go through boards and commissions of various types or committees or subcommittees of various types? Not necessarily. And I'm going to give you the lawyerly answer, which is it depends. It depends on, for example, statutorily, certain items relative to land development need to go to the Planning Commission first for recommendation before they are statutorily allowed to be decided upon by the City Council. So we're talking about zoning and or general plan amendments and things of this nature. So typically, if there are boards and commissions with a area of interest or jurisdiction over a particular topic, what staff will do is they will work into the approval process of a project or a policy, development of a policy, visits to the various commissions that have an interest, as I indicated, or jurisdiction over that particular item. So that's typically how it will work. They may not have the board or commission may not have an approval authority over it, such as the Planning Commission as a recommending body on zoning or general plan, but they have a subject matter interest in, and that is a feedback from those commissions is something that the council will want to have information about and weigh in on before they consider it. So I just wanted to give that general feedback, and David can provide more information. I'm available to answer questions.
Thank you.
If I may, you bring up an excellent point, and I think there are exceptions to the idea that I brought forward. Obviously, the most obvious one to me would be grant deadlines or things that are related to RFPs, certain contractual deadlines that come forward. And of course, in those cases, I wouldn't be bothered if something needed to be accelerated to a council agenda. But I'm trying to think through the examples of things that we've come across where something is time sensitive, and I can't think of one. Especially as it relates to policy discussions that we have. So yes, of course, and we're just the commission, we don't have authority. They can do whatever they want, but I would like for it to be more of a standard than it be so, us being utilized so rarely. So I'd rather see it the other way around, where things come to us 90% of the time, and if there's something that's time sensitive, so be it. But I think it would be better if we got into the process of being consulted on for items that are related to the reason why we're here.
The dilemma, though, it was mentioned earlier that anything that the city does could be classified under sustainability. I mean, pretty much everything that they vote on, there's a sustainability angle to it. So mean, that's the dilemma. Do we have to review everything that goes to city council? My recommendation is, I hope not. There's a reason why I'm not elected city council member. But they need to utilize us a little more than what we're getting today. There's expertise here, subject matter expertise that we can assist with. Our recommendations, our research can add some value in addition to staff.
David, one other thing, to go back to the tracker, I can't recall just not having it on hand, but does that have any kind of expectation, or on the tracker, does it mention anything about when items are expected to come to council?
We try to give, to council, to come back
Council,
to you.
yeah.
No.
No.
Because we don't know. Not everything on that tracker is going to go to council.
Right.
Maybe, I don't think anything currently on the tracker is slated to go to council at this point.
Okay.
If there was an item that council specifically asked the commission to address, we would put that in the tracker. So this needs to go back.
I guess I'm thinking of like the leaf blower ordinance, the drive-through ordinance, which is something we have brought up before. If that information is on the tracker in some way where, it shows that it's at least already on the radar for city council, I could see that being helpful, but also just having that tracker, like we already mentioned, updated and presented at each meeting. I mean, that will help us look at, our list of things that have been requested. And then I'm trying to think of the steps here, but, of course it would be nice to have that in hand at the time at which we need to make those formal requests for something to be agendized. So I guess thinking ahead to next month, I mean, we will hopefully have the tracker by then, or we'll see some sort of updated one if possible, and then can come prepared to the next meeting and then make those requests. I think that's something that we could put into practice and try and implement for future meetings.
So yeah, Commissioner Basemore, I agree with that, and I think as staff, we need to be more proactive in reaching out to you and saying, what do you want from us for these particular items? So I think that's something we can do. As to Commissioner Bartra-Souf's in what should come in front of the commission and how do you define that sustainability, I think we're trying to do that through the work plan. Maybe we need to expand that into a framework of I don't know how, it's something we're going to have to think through, but this is an area of purview of the commission. These are projects that are happening in this area, so we think that these projects need to come back. So I think we do need to get some kind of structure around that, because otherwise as staff, we wouldn't be having time to do any of our other jobs. We'd be just getting information to come back to you. But I understand the frustration, I totally do. So that's why we're having this conversation today, to try and figure that out. But I think we're going to have to develop some type of framework around that. It's how do we get it back to you and stuff like that. So we'll work on that and bring that back to you for your consideration.
I have a comment and then a question for Jillian. Remember when we first started, meeting, we had different departments come in and do reports, like we had GWP came in, maybe community services, I don't remember all of them. The problem with those was they developed all the content. Not that they should, they know what their programs are. But I'm thinking, if I'm looking at water use for irrigation, xeriscaping, things of that sort, it might be if we could arrange meetings with them again where they come in, but if we could present questions to them in advance, because I'm looking for specific data. Do we have flow meters any place? Has the city done water efficiency audits of its own buildings, things of that sort? Have we ever done outreach about, do you know that you're using potable drinking water to water your lawn, things of that sort? So maybe we could better tailor some feedback from other departments, have another round of reports, but they could be more tailored, but that's providing questions in advance. Not that the presentations weren't good, but they were canned. They didn't address my particular questions or, areas where I have gaps in my knowledge. And then my other question is, so if we're talking about agendas like water or something, put that on this. The commission's in agreement. This should be something that goes to council. So I guess this is for Jillian. If we agree, an item should be presented to council, and so then it's taken to the mayor and city manager for them to consider for the agenda. Would it be appropriate for us, one or more of us, to go to the council members and, if the item gets on the agenda, and say, these are our exact thoughts? I just know, I know a lot of file and consent, sometimes I tend not to read. I get those things all the time, and I have to confess I don't read them at all during my day job. But so I'm just thinking, would that be appropriate if we could loop in presentations to council somehow?
I think that is something that we'd have to think about and come back to you on that. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but I don't know, Jillian, if you want to say anything.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair Pinkerton, members of the commission. Two responses. On the first part concerning putting together a list of questions, I think that staff could set a meeting agenda item for you to solicit questions or groupings of questions that could be submitted to a department prior to their making a presentation. It could be far more interactive. That's one way of handling it, short of having them make a more generic presentation and then responding to questions on the fly. So I certainly think that that is possible to accomplish through the process. And then it is absolutely acceptable for any of the commission members to attend the city council meeting to speak on behalf of themselves as an individual or as a representative of the of the Sustainability Commission, and to provide feedback or information to the council.
Great, thank you. Because I think we're all probably pretty much in agreement with the way Alex summed this up very well, is that we seem to be a reactive body, that when they bring things to us, but we would like to be much more proactive and help shape policy by bringing issues, concerns to council in advance. So, well, it looks like we've got a couple options now at least, so, all right, thanks.
I guess I'll add, I do like that idea of having reports. I was not on the commission when that was first done. So for me, not knowing how different departments are focusing on sustainability and what they do, I think would be really useful for me to know. And if we had that, like I was saying originally, kind of set out on a schedule so we knew when each department was going to come and speak to us, I think that would be helpful for me to, generate, or for all of us to generate questions for them. We can do that on the, the dais here for the next, the next meeting. That could be an agenda item that we could consider having for each meeting for the following one. So I really like that idea, and I would, I don't know where we'll go from here, but of course, see what staff puts together for this. Thank you.
I mean, we don't want to inundate the departments, but like I think Jillian's word was the best. They were very generic. And I don't expect somebody to walk in and have all the data that I might be interested in, what percentage of water goes for this or this. So if we could present questions, that would help.
Yeah, Commissioner Pinkerton and Commissioners, we understood that the idea of those was because the commission was new. We wanted to give you a grounding on what all the departments in the city were doing. And it was just, here's an information download of the stuff we're doing regarding sustainability. To Commissioner Bazemore's question, I think we are trying to do that. I think one of the items we got coming up is the demand response program. We try to reach out to get specific questions from you, and then we'll formulate those questions. We'll send those questions to GWP. We'll get them to respond to those questions, and then so we can respond directly to your questions. And then we can look at those responses, and we can decide, okay, as Alex said, not to bring the departments traipsing in front of every commission meeting. We can say, okay, we think the response that they provided is comprehensive, and we can provide that in a staff report. Or actually, no, we think that we may need a representative of GWP to come along with the responses because we may need some additional explanation. So that is something, as we're developing the agenda of the chair, we'll have those discussions. But that is something that I think we're trying to move along to.
And I would say, I'd like to see, as you said, the departments coming to our commission a couple of years ago now was introductory, and it was just meant for us to introduce ourselves to the department and understand what they're doing. I feel like the next time we see them should be in the context of the climate action plan. And, you know, at this point, I assume that they're engaging with the consultants or amongst themselves as to what their contribution to the climate action plan will be. And I would like to see them again at a point in which they're ready to make loose recommendations or some idea of what they want to contribute for us to react to. So it's not that we're the ones coming up with recommendations for them at a blank slate. It's that they have thought through what their contributions are and that we can react to them. Like that, the demand response reminded me of the incentives that the city provides. If we're going to talk about GWP specifically, the community benefit programs that they have for low-income folks. I remember when they came to our commission a couple of years ago, I asked about, you know, how much of your resources are going to the renter community versus single-family homes. And I asked that question and we never got a response because it was in real time, and I understand things happen, but I want us to be able to react to what it is that they're proposing. And I want that to happen in advance of the climate action plan so that we're not again reacting in a time frame at which they're not able to adjust. If that makes sense.
I have a couple comments playing off of that, but one of my questions is, this is going way back and I may not be accurate, but I remember utilities used to have, there was a public benefits requirement mandate, the state mandated a certain percentage of revenues had to go to like solar incentives and things. But I'm wondering, how does the city decide, like rebates to offer for gray water systems, for example, if we even offer them? You know, what is the budget process for that? Is it a percentage? How do they derive at the bucket of funds that will be used for rebates or incentives? And it would be nice to know. And one other thing too, outreach is really difficult. I mean, it's difficult. We're also hit with so many messages. But I remember doing a direct mail campaign for LA Water and Power, and they were just big postcards, but we got like a 2% response, which sounds pathetic, but that's actually like 4 times your typical direct mail response. Does the city budget for outreach for things like this, like a postcard, you know, or like one a quarter? I know there's a newsletter that comes out, mostly on recycling though, I think, the ones I've gotten. But like with the climate action plan, I'm just thinking it would be really, I think it'd be great to have like a little list of numbers, like a lot of people don't know that water is pumped here. So water is very heavy and that a lot of electricity is consumed to pump water from Northern to Southern California. So every gallon of water that's delivered to your home is equivalent of how many greenhouse gas emissions, you know, how much CO2, because I don't think people necessarily get that linkage. So I'm just thinking in terms of statistics that might be useful for people to apply, you know, these things that seem so overwhelming, but to understand like the real life implications for you. I'm not summing it up very well.
But Commissioner Pinkerton, I understand, and I think the conversation today is about the process so we can get to that. So, for example, one of the Commission's priorities is water conservation. So my recommendation would be that at the next meeting during staff comments, you say, we want to get some information about water conservation, and then we'll discuss that, get the questions from you, and then submit those questions to GWP. I think that's the way we should go forward. And in terms of the Climate Action Adaptation Plan, the greenhouse gas inventory, we've just received the completed inventory. That's all going to be on the website, and all that data will be emissions for water transfer and everything will be part of that data that's available for our community to see. So, I really appreciate all your feedback today and this afternoon. We'll go away and work on this and come back. So, unless you have more, obviously.
Do our student commissioners have any comments? I mean, you're new to all this. We're talking process mostly tonight, but do you have any?
I suppose I would wonder if, obviously we are new, if there was like a summary of those previous meetings you had, like you were talking about at the beginning when you were first getting started, as we are now first getting started. Wondering if that is a thing.
So, ex officio Welch, yes. So all the commission meetings are recorded, so we can send you the dates of when those different departments came to the commission, and at your leisure, you can listen to those meetings.
We have the minutes, but they don't go into this level of minutia.
Yeah, the public meeting portal would have all the past ones. You could scroll. And
So we're going to see if we can get the tracker up right now.
And if I may, just to clarify, what we're looking at here is the
Is it commission schedule, the
previous
second tab?
commissioner requests to staff
No.
of projects and things to look at?
Questions, reports that are pending.
Okay,
Some
okay.
completed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we go to the first tab, I guess. Or is it agendized items? Just to show them, I think the agendized items are more comprehensive one, right? Yeah. Okay. I think so.
You see one of our commissioners talked about the ordinance for drive-throughs, banning, and that should be in here.
It is.
Yeah, it was-
it says drive-throughs, but it should be drive-throughs. Yeah, typo.
No.
No, I like this idea of closing the loop more, because I remember earlier on I kept asking about when the Honeywell smart thermostats will be online, and they kept saying, oh, we're working on it. I just checked online, and they're accepting Honeywell now, but no one told me, so I could have been saving money on my GWP bill for I don't know how long, but I'm glad they're on, but you know, it'd been nice to know. Yeah.
What we've tried to identify here so we've got the full tracker. Thank you. So we have the full tracker of everything that you've given us, some that are completed, that are not completed, and we can send you the link to the full tracker. So for example, these are just items that the Commission has requested from staff, and we have either asked departments to provide this information, or we've scheduled information to come back to the Commission. So, for example, the drive-throughs, a moratorium going to City Council. So we are waiting to that, and I think if we scroll along to the left, it says notes. We'll come to the Commission 2024. So we've reached out to planning. They said they're going to go back to City Council to extend the moratorium. And then they're going to get a report and they're going to come back to 3 commissions, and one of the commissions will be the Sustainability Commission about that report, so you'll be able to have input. The EPP request, Commissioner Pinkerton asked for a list of major contracts. We've actually, we're a bit late to get that on this agenda, but we have reached out, we have got a response from purchasing to bring that back, so we'll bring that back at the next commission meeting as a report. So the fact sheets, I don't think the arborists, and we'll talk about what's upcoming in the next meetings. I think that is going to be coming back, and again with the tree protection measures. So we have identified this tracker. We will improve it, and we will make sure that as part of the packet that you receive for future commission meeting, you will receive this tracker. We probably just link through to it because there'll be too much information to print out in the packet. You link through to it, and then you can find it, and then at the meeting we can have the tracker discussion. Then you can ask us specific questions about items that you put onto the tracker and how you want us to respond. So I think that's a good way of going forward and keeping up to date.
One warning, David, that when you send it to us as a link, don't send it as editable. The last thing you want is 5 people going in there and editing it all of a sudden.
We'll make sure. So for the next meeting, under the commission schedule. So we plan to have the urban forest update. So Public Works will come back to the commission with that report, and hopefully have the bicycle plan update team presentation too that we can present to the commission on that. And then in November, we've asked for questions regarding the demand response program. So that's going to give us time to submit those questions to GWP and then come back to the commission in November with those questions. So those are the upcoming agenda items right now. And again, I'll discuss with the chair other items at the next meeting as we can bring back this information report to you on this workflow process and make sure that we all agree on that and that's an effective way to go forward.
Can I ask a question about the schedule? I was planning on sharing this with you, but I'm going to be out of town in September, personally. The bike plan is something that's important for me, and I'm curious if there are no pressing things that need to happen at the staff level, if that can be placed on October's agenda instead of September. If the commission agrees, and if there, again, I don't want to interrupt any scheduling with city staff. So if we're able to do that, I would love that.
Well, I'm going to be gone in October, so.
Really?
I will, yes. But that's fine. I think, I don't know if this is.
The 2 bicycles.
Yes, we'll do it twice then maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, I think we'll leave that to staff to take our recommendation. I don't need to, I want to be there for it, but Alec got his request in first, let's just say that.
We can talk offline with staff.
We could maybe arrange for virtual attendance, so potentially. So we'll sort something.
We'll sort it out.
One question. So for the urban forest action item for September, what is that exactly? Is that a recommendation we're giving to council?
So City Council asked Public Works to come back to the commission to get their recommendations on that report before they submit the report to City Council.
Thank you.
Next item is 7, Sustainability Office Update, 7A, Climate Action Adaptation Plan Update.
So I'm pleased to report to the commissioners we've had our initial focus groups, and I think I mentioned this last time, we had virtual and in-person. So we've got a lot of feedback in terms of the equity framework that is going to be used by the consultants as they look to develop the different adaptation and mitigation strategies. We received information today that the greenhouse gas inventory has been completed. We will be putting that on the website. The consultants have developed the website for the Climate Action Adaptation Plan, so that will be the primary source for information for all the reports, all the actions. In terms of Commissioner Bartrasu's question about the individual departments, over the next couple of months, the consultants will be doing deep dive with each department to discuss adaptation and mitigation measures with those departments to get their feedback, to understand what the capabilities are as they beginning to flesh out the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. So we're still going full ahead with the outreach component of this plan. So again, we've done additional focus groups and internal focus groups. We're now going to go to the wider community. We're going to have pop-up events to continue to get input from the community on the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. So again, the website will be up and running hopefully in the next 10 days or 2 weeks or so. And we encourage you to start looking at that website and finding all the great work that the consultants have done so far. And the feedback we've had from the community so far is they're very, very grateful that we are reaching out to the community and asking for their feedback. So that's been a positive outcome of the work done so far.
David, you'll probably find out when it's up on the website before we do. Do you mind pinging us when it is? That way we're not checking the website several times a day.
Of course.
Okay, next item is 8, adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
The meeting is adjourned at 6:46. Thank you.
Thank you.